Play it forward. Back. I'm Costello. We're here today with Joe Burke, filmmaker, writer, director, producer. We're going to be talking about another cancer movie. Joe Burke, thanks for being on the show.
Oh man, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate
It
it.
is a pleasure and a treat. Really enjoyed watching another cancer movie, and just you made cancer fun.
Of
So thanks for doing that.
course.
Would you like to introduce yourself or
Sure.
the movie? Both.
Yeah, so my name's Joe Burke, independent filmmaker. Um, backstory, grew up in Ohio, loved making movies as a kid, started at a young age, went to film school in Chicago, went to grad school for film out here in LA at a place called American Film Institute. Great program, 2 years, and just been hustling and bustling as a writer director for a long time. A lot of my work, like another cancer movie, a lot of my work is very personal to me. I do a lot of I love comedy, but I love grounding it. For me, the humor comes out of real life, the drama of everyday life, the real life situations, things that we can all relate to. I think a big sort of just backbone of all my work is like I want the audience to be able to watch my work and be like, I relate to that, I get that, I know that feeling, and ultimately not to feel so alone, but to bring people together and have a shared sense of humor or a shared cry or whatever it is. So there's definitely a level of like, keep it honest, because if you're honest, more people relate to it. And so that's all to say, that's a little bit of backstory. Another
Thank you.
cancer movie is something that we'll talk about here, but that came out of that situation. In the movie, and this is, people will watch it, but my buddy Oliver Cooper, who's a good friend of mine, we grew up in Ohio together. He's an actor, came out here when he was 19, booked his first audition in his entire life. It's a crazy story. I won't get into the whole story, but he booked a movie called Project X for Warner Brothers, which is a big house party movie that he booked the lead in. Todd Phillips produced it.
Wow.
And first audition ever. I mean, he moved out to Ohio from Ohio. Everyone's like, "What are you gonna do in
Wow.
LA?" Oliver's like, "I don't know." And he booked this movie,
That's
and
crazy.
we've been working together ever since, and made a bunch of stuff. And his aunt Becca lives in Encino, California, which is not
Wow.
too far from here. And she's wonderful. She's been like kind of like a mother to him and helped me out a lot. And um, again, not to ramble, but
No, not
long
at all. It's
story,
so
we go
interesting.
go ahead,
It's
dive in.
very interesting. It's like totally like the movie is like makes it more, potent.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's his real aunt. I'll finish with the last point.
Yeah.
She's doing okay now, thank God, but she was going through chemo for real. And
Amazing.
so when we had this sort of, again, I like to tap into real life and in my life and where I'm at, and I have more examples later I can share. But with this particular one, we said, "Hey, Becca, we got this short film idea we want to do with you. You're going through chemo, and would you want to act in this thing?" She's not an actress. However, she did a few years before that act in my first feature with Oliver based on their actual life, a whole other thing we could talk about called Four
Wow.
Dogs.
Wow.
So we go to this idea. We say, "Becca, do you want to make this short? Here's the thing." She's like listening. She's like, "Yeah, it sounds interesting." We're like, "Here's the kicker though, like, not to spoil the ending, but we kind of told her about the ending." And she just rolled her eyes like, "Oh, you guys," but she's like, "Let's do it." And so
She's
it was one
great.
of those
Wow. How
things where
cool is
like,
she?
so cool. So she's incredible. I mean, she's like super badass. But she's acting in this movie for real, going through chemo for real. She has no hair for real. And we thought there was like, the premise of the movie is basically these two kind of buddies, these amateur filmmakers are trying to make a serious drama with their aunt that has cancer in the hopes to like make a movie like Moonlight that goes to film festivals, wins an Oscar. Who knows? Like they're trying to make a serious drama with their aunt and like what's more real than actually having cancer? And they fall on their face a little bit, but it's like heartfelt. It was therapeutic for us in real life to make it with her. She loved doing it. It was just like a beautiful joy shared experience, and it came out of that truth of that like she was really going through it.
It shows, all that shows in the film. And, I definitely I wasn't surprised. I watched, the credits roll through all
Yeah,
the way, and then I
yeah,
saw that little clip.
yeah.
Very cute where you guys kind of, make that group photo and then you share that she survives. I
Yeah.
mean, and watching the film, I suspected, okay, this looks pretty real. Her hair is, um
Yeah.
pretty hard to recreate anyway. What a great heart she is to do that, and what a
Totally.
wonderful experience. What a just great thing to do when you have cancer. I mean, it's just like, yeah, let's continue to live and
Yeah.
take on
Yeah.
new
Exactly.
opportunities. So it's a wonderful statement she makes just by saying yes to that. And the
Yeah.
movie is, really well pulled off. I mean, the quality is super high, very professional. My favorite scene, and I usually don't say what my favorite scenes are, but I will. And I think you might be surprised. Maybe you won't. I don't know. It'll be interesting. But my favorite scene is the very end when the car pulls away from the house. And the reason is,
I love that scene too, by the way. Yeah, one
yeah,
second.
yeah. And the reason is because the initial impression is that he's legally parked. That was my initial impression because he's too close to that goddamn fire hydrant. And then he pulls away, and you see that he's actually parked legally.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
and to
right.
me, that is just such a huge metaphor. Like that's one of the things that happens in films, when you're making them and you see that in the edit, and you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. You know what I mean? So
That is
I
so
love
funny.
that. And I love that with the music,
Mm.
and that was a great song.
Which, by the
And
way, is Burt Berger, who plays that sound guy. That's
yeah,
his
I got
song.
that too. I got it. He's
That's
a
his
great
song.
sound guy.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
he's a he's actually not an actor. He's a singer-songwriter. That's how I met him.
is that right? He,
It was his
he
first.
did
That
a
was his
great,
first acting role in that
he
short. That
did
was
a
his first
great, he
acting.
nailed
Yeah,
that. I mean, he
yeah.
really, captured the spirit of sound guys. But
Yes.
it was really great. And the reason the song and that worked for me is I think a testament to the entire movie.
Mm,
The entire movie, that moment works as a capstone to it.
mm.
Um, so before I go any further, let me get back to you and say, what was the inspiration, the beginning kernel of an emotional ping in you before you even got the idea for this? What was that little thing? I want to do this.
Oliver, so Oliver Cooper, who I was talking about, he's a good friend of mine. We create a bunch of stuff together. We were sitting around at his apartment one night, and we were just kind of like itching just to be like, dude, we got to make another short. Let's just make another short. Like we try to stay busy,
Yep.
shorts, pitch TV shows, web series. We've done now 2 features. We just finished our second one literally last month. We just finished it. So
Congrats.
we've been busy, thank you. And so this was, a few years ago with another cancer movie, and we are talking about like we should make something with Becca, his aunt. We're like, yeah, we should make something because she was going through chemo. And we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
and like it was like one of those magical nights where you're just sitting there on the couch and you just say something, and then I say, we bounce it back and forth, and in 3 hours, we knew the whole short. We knew the short. We knew like, hey, what if we get the guy Burt Berger from the musician guy we know who was like, we wanted to put him in some movie. Like he could play the sound guy. You and I can be in this. It can be like we can, like it was all one night. It was like, literally the next day. I wrote the first draft. It was like 15 pages. I sent it to Oliver. I sent it to my DP, Ken Hui. Went to film school with in Chicago. We've been working together ever since. And we actually drove to Malibu that next day where Bert plays music at this restaurant in Malibu and said, hey, Bert, you don't know us, but we have this part in this short film that we
Oh,
just
get
wrote.
out. You guys didn't even know him?
No,
Uh,
no, we just knew of him because we saw him at the restaurant a bunch. And
oh,
we were just like, he's such a quirky, interesting dude with
yes,
music.
yes.
So like it was, and this was all in 24 hours. And
Yeah.
so we built this team up, and then 8 days later, we're on set. So I mean,
Oh,
I work fast, but this was extra fast.
how fun.
And so I wrote the draft. We talked to Becca. She was on board. Um, I don't know if you want information on like the budget and stuff, but I can get into
No,
that.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 1 day shoot. We shot in
Yeah.
1 day. We spent like $3,000 on it. We had 2 cameras, cross shooting because we had a lot to shoot in 1 day, but it was
Awesome.
cheaper to rent 2 cameras than rent a package for 2 days, so to speak. So we
Uh-huh.
shot it all
Uh-huh.
in 1 day, got the two
Smart.
cameras,
Smart.
had a camera operator, my DP, B camera operator we brought on. I
Smart.
teach film school. I had a couple former film students come on and AC and gaff for us. Small
Great.
little intimate crew.
Yeah.
And then yeah, shot
That's
the movie at
perfect.
Becca's house.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. That's one of the things that I believe, this platform we discussed Digipops a little bit before, and sponsoring the show and all that. I think there's so much opportunity for just looking in your world and saying, what elements do I have that can really lend realism,
Yeah.
and how do I leverage those elements that can bring the realism in a narrative structure? And we can do that. We can keep the budgets down. We can keep, and make real shit that, really resonates. And so that's what you did. And I think that's just a really smart way of, yeah,
Absolutely. Do you want a
yeah,
quick side note about this?
yeah.
You might appreciate this. So Burt Berger, the sound guy, we keep talking about Burt. People have to watch the short and see Burt because he shines in the short as the sound guy.
Oh, yeah.
we fell in love with him so much. I was like, I gotta make a movie with Bert. And after 5 years of trying to figure out what it was, the movie that we shot this year that we just finished, it's called Bert,
Oh,
and
get
it's
the
about his life. He's a singer-songwriter.
wow.
He shot his actual house, but the twist of the movie is his long lost son he never met shows up out of the blue in the beginning, played by Oliver, and it's a father-son movie about this.
Oh,
And also, Bert has Parkinson's now. He's doing okay,
oh,
but he has
geez.
Parkinson's. So it's about a musician who's 70 years old, a street musician with Parkinson's. His son shows up. It's this beautiful black and white father-son grounded comedy that we just made for.
Wow.
We shot it for under 10,000 bucks.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. That
and
is
so we just finished
awesome.
that.
That's
But it
super inspiring.
honors Bert's life.
That's super inspiring, man. That's just beautiful. I mean, I love that, and would love to see it, and we'll talk about it another
Yeah, of
time, man.
course.
But yes, that's just such a smart way. It's and I think filmmakers often get their creativity stifled. It's like any other platform. You're painting, you're writing, your book. Yeah, you don't need to have like a Kickstarter campaign to do that. You know what I mean? Or get Hollywood or somebody else to say, yes, here's a check. You
And
know
that's
what I
why we
mean?
did it, man.
Yeah.
We tried to get this like $1 million movie off the ground for the last couple of years. We had a couple of projects, yada yada yada. It's I mean, like the gatekeepers, the agents, the managers, God bless them. If you
Yeah.
want to make a movie, find a way to do it without them,
You just you don't
especially in the
need to.
independent world.
You
Yeah.
don't need to now. You don't need to.
Yeah, you
I
really
mean, the
don't.
quality of the movie, used to be film was cost prohibitive, but
Right.
now, man, geez, you got DSLRs going
Exactly.
5K, 20K, whatever it is, man.
That's what we did.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a testament. So the second question is this, Joe. You can't help like when you get a person battling cancer in real life, you can't help but write mortality into the script. I mean, mortality is a theme in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a couple of guys. One guy's a male nurse. He's falling in love with, this patient, and then there's this twist to it, right? The movie within a movie kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
And so, and then you, like you said, you got these two aspiring filmmakers. They want to make like real gritty art, but at the same time, they're like, Pacino, Scorsese, right? They're Hollywood bound. They've got this kind of conflict that's like sort of immature. That's where the amateurish
They're
thing.
dreamers, man.
Yeah,
They are immature, like,
yeah.
we played, we're not playing ourselves. We're playing kind of more, I don't want to say dumbed down, but more low rent versions of ourselves.
Right. It's
Guys who
you
maybe never
guys,
came to,
but
yeah.
right.
Just like guys who like live in like our hometown in Ohio that just like want to make a movie. Like, yeah.
And it's great, and it's great, and it works perfectly, and it captures, it's fun kind of play on, young filmmakers and young
Right.
directors, and I want more, it's like cowbell or
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah,
and,
exactly, exactly.
so um so it's great because it's balanced by, this authenticity, and I think that's
Mhm,
what you mentioned earlier, something
mhm.
along those lines, truth.
Yeah.
And so setting that up as, my job, I mentioned, is really getting into the message of the movie. And I'll share my kind of takeaway. That scene, after I saw that scene that I told you was my favorite scene, and that's why I told you that. And so I was planning to add this later. What came to me, interestingly enough, um, and this is when a movie works, is I got uh the idea popped in my head spontaneously, that John Lennon song, and the lyric is "Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans."
Mm, I
You
love that line.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, as you're watching this movie, and as these guys are dreaming, and as this woman's battling cancer, there is, to me, the heart of the movie is the aunt saying, "I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you as she's dying. I'm
Mm,
so proud of you."
mm, mm.
And that might not, you know, get,
I
and
love
then
it.
I,
Yeah.
and I think the reason why it's life is what happens when you're making other plans in this particular context is because he doesn't necessarily is like, "Oh, thank you, Aunt." He doesn't take it in. He wants other things, but
Right.
that's at
Right.
the end of the day
Right.
what counts,
Right. Right.
and that's what that harmony. So setting that up, it's like when you watch the movie now, it's said and done. You did it, you wrote it, you shot in 8 days later, it took a day.
Yeah.
Now that it's
Well, the
resin,
short was 1 day, but the new feature was the. I'm sorry. I'm saying 8 days to prep it. I apologize. I got
yeah,
confused
yeah.
there. Yeah.
So
Yes.
so you did it lightning fast,
Yes. 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 Yes.
and you've
Yes.
had some time to reflect. what's your takeaway? What's your meaning message
Mm,
when you watch that movie? What hits your heart?
great question. Great question. What I love about the movie and what I kind of stumbled across as a filmmaker in making this process, everyone is trying their best in some ways, and I really believe that in this world. Like everyone is really like if you want to have sympathy for people, now there are people who are also trying to go greedy and trying to take advantage, like for sure. We can get into that conversation. But like at its core, the majority of the hardworking person, American, whatever you want to, in this country, at least I'll focus on, they're trying their best. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to find a way to live a life with meaning. Everyone wants to have meaning in their life. Everyone wants to have a purpose. Everyone wants to be remembered or, do something special. And even though these guys kind of do something a little silly and wrong and edgy and take advantage of one of their aunts who's going through chemo and they have this dream of like if we can do this and sell the drama, we can become real serious filmmakers and play film festivals all over the world and be taken seriously as filmmakers. Their intentions are a little, maybe a little out there in some ways, but also they're pure in the sense that like they have a dream and they're trying the only way they know how to do it. And one thing I try to do with my work, even if and I love, even like, I'll go as far as like giving an example. Steve Carell as Michael Scott in The Office is probably one of my favorite TV show characters. He is super flawed. He says stuff he shouldn't be saying. But at the end of the day, it works, and you love him because of the heart and the intentions and what he's trying his best. He really is. And so I love characters like that. I love characters that like, yeah, they're flawed, but we all are. And so I think after making another cancer movie and like feeling that we were able to kind of push this boundary, I mean, making a movie about cancer, a comedy, excuse me, making a comedy about cancer.
Right,
I mean, on paper, it's like, no, 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 no. What are you even
right.
talking about? You shouldn't, it's like, but I think we did it. I think we wrote that line well. And I think we did because at the end of the day, it was from that place of like, look, there's a lot of heart going in here. These are people trying to just figure it out. And that third act, for me, that third act in the front yard where you kind of realize, okay, this is really like, it's not just a joke. The short's not just a joke. It's like we ground it with that third act of the film where you really see them after the incident with the aunt and the ambulance and everything, not to spoil too much, but they're real people and they're trying to just go on. There's
Right.
love here. And
Yeah,
so
that's it.
that was my big takeaway. My big
Yeah.
takeaway was like you can go to a certain place and kind of push some boundaries if the character itself learns from it, is three-dimensional, has a moment of like realization, epiphany, or introspection, introspection. Is that the right word? Yeah. Anyways,
Intro.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm still learning English,
No, I
but
hear you. I do it all
um,
the time.
that's my big takeaway.
Yeah.
Is one of them at least is that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love, the takeaway, the sympathy, that sympathetic connection, and really just all of us, being good-hearted people at our core. And that's what unites us more than any of the other stuff divides us.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, last question.
Sure.
Joe, what, how, how have you been changed as a person after making the movie?
Yeah, I mean, a couple ways. I mean, I think, I'll start by just, looking at Becca, who acts in the movie, going through chemo and says yes to doing the project, and just the courage and the bravery of putting herself on screen, sick, hairless,
Right.
like going for it.
Yeah.
Uh, truly, like the line you said, where she says in the movie, she says like her nephew character, "I'm so proud of you." That's real life. In real life, she was giving us that gift, saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this for you guys in real life." I mean, it's
That's
so
a,
meta, which I love,
yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
probably, if I can say another takeaway, I,
Yeah.
I think the fact of going meta, the fact of finding layers, if you can blur that line of reality in cinema, there's something really special
Oh,
there
yeah.
that can't be manufactured,
Yes.
that only exists in that
Yeah.
little area. And I
Yeah.
think that is what will leave an impression on a viewer or an
Yes.
audience member to
Yeah.
remember it maybe for the rest of their lives. Hey, I saw
Yeah.
this short 20 years ago and I just
Right.
still think, I mean, I see movies like that where I'm just like, yeah, there's like a little scene in a movie I saw 25 years ago that I still laugh about. And it was
Yeah.
just so real and so true. And that's what I love. That's the takeaway. And it's
Yeah,
like, and even though I love horror and I love thriller, I love all these different types of movies. As a writer, I keep going back to like, what can I write that allows me to live in that little space
yeah,
between
yeah,
reality and fiction?
yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. It's great. So it sounds like, have you been changing and you even more committed to the vision of like that's what
Right.
puts that, secret sauce, that magical ingredient in film where it isn't that third kind of wall or whatever it is. It's a personal thing, and that medium of the digital thing that's capturing this impression is captures a quality that is
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. 100%, man. And then again, just a lot, just the kind of repeat the magic after all of it was I met Burt Berger, the guy who plays the sound guy, and my follow-up feature was called Burt about his life. So
that's
you
awesome.
just you just kind of go down this path and like, you know, it's you know, that's the creative side. There's a whole nother for another day a business side conversation we can have. But in terms of creativity, to find the
Yeah,
heart in your characters and the stories you want to tell, and not worry about the money and the industry and the Hollywoodness of it
yeah,
all, just
yeah.
the art of it. That's the path that we've been following thus far.
Beautiful path, man. No doubt it's led you to beautiful places, and it will continue to.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Joe Burke, thank you for being on the show. Play it forward. We are out. Till next time, everybody. Bye, Joe.
Thanks,
Thank you,
man.
brother.
Appreciate it.